It's been another big week for the energy debate and the focus on nuclear energy. I'm joined now by the Climate Change and Energy Minister, Shadow Minister that is, from the Coalition, Ted O'Brien, joining us live from Melbourne. Good to talk to you, Ted. This
Likewise,
report
Chris,
by the CSIRO, the Gen Cost report about the costs of competing sources of energy, do you trust their numbers?
well, to their credit, for the first time, as you might know, Chris, they've included the large reactors in their assessment, so that's good. And the capital cost on a kilowatt basis for those larger reactors, they don't look unreasonable at all.
They say about
where the
17 billion
report-
for the first one, and then say 8.5 billion. So if you rolled out half a dozen, you'd roll them out at eight to 10 billion bucks a pop, presumably.
Well, where I think it's reasonable is they're talking about just over $8,500 a kilowatt. Where I think they're wrong is the doubling for that first plant. So basically they're saying that for the first plant, you'll double it, 100% premium. But that's only if you were to have a completely new, first-of-a-kind design. Australia shouldn't be looking at that. We should only be looking at tried and proven technologies. And so that you can dismiss. The thing I've got real concerns about, which just doesn't make sense compared to international comparisons, is the price of electricity coming out of those plants. The report assumes that the life of a nuclear power plant is only 30 years, when in fact they're licensed for about 80 years, probably could be extended up to 100 years. They assume at the low end of their assumptions that a nuclear plant might only run just over half the time with a 53% capacity factor. But as we know, nuclear power plants are 24/7, always on, up to 95% capacity factors.
They are
And so
massive.
the assessment's still...
Sorry to interrupt, but they're massive miscalculations. I mean, you're talking about the lifespan being a third of the actual lifespan, and finance over that time, of course, is going to be reduced by a similar amount.
Yeah, exactly, Chris. And this is why good on them for having a look at the large reactors, but our interest is not on putting the investor at the centre. That's what CSIRO does, right? CSIRO is trying to speak to investors who are trying to make a buck. We've got to focus on the consumer who wants to save a buck, which means the way you do the modelling is completely different anyway. I mean, Labor loves this stuff because Labor wants to pit one technology against another, all eggs in one basket, renewables approach. But the trick is we've got to get that balanced mix of different technologies. So as we move forward, how are we going to be able to integrate renewables, gas and zero emissions nuclear energy? Only by having a look at the mix, with nuclear being the backbone of the entire system, can we get the prices down and keep the lights on as we decarbonise?
We're nearly out of time, but just briefly, that's a very important point to summarise, because you're not arguing get rid of renewables. You'll probably want some gas, certainly keep a lot of renewables and add in nuclear to basically replace that baseload power of coal. Well, it's Labor that's being exclusive here. They don't want all options. They want to look at all options except coal, gas and nuclear.
It's all eggs in one basket for Labor. It's high risk and it's already failing, as we know. Australians are now paying among the highest prices in the world. The market operator said this week that we might have blackouts as soon as summer. Emissions are even going up, for crying out loud. We just need some balance, some diversity. In the rest of the world, what they say is if you have zero emissions nuclear energy in the mix, working with renewables, working with gas, prices down, lights stay on and emissions go down. That's what we need. Put consumers at the centre, Chris.
Makes so much sense. Thanks for joining us, Ted. I appreciate it. Ted O'Brien there. I mean, if this stuff didn't add up economically, there wouldn't be 23 of the best economies in the world using it right now. Just a little bit of feedback from you on what I had to say about renewables last night. And Brian says that they're going to stop the subsidies. Just stop all the subsidies and watch what happens then. And Tony says no competent, sane project manager would operate without a contingency plan. That's what we're doing in this country if we just stick with renewables alone. Ivan says, wait until people can't power their fridges and have to throw out food. Look out, blackout Bowen then. Exactly, they can't wait for those blackouts. The Labor Party, that'll knock some sense into them. And Steve says, reliable renewables sounds like some woke pop group. It does indeed. Just extraordinary stuff. As I said, reliable renewables, just a new term that they've made up because renewables ain't reliable. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next week.